Image resolution is an issue in InDesign. So when we work with our graphics, our bitmap graphics, they are graphics created from pixels. And pixels, as you remember, are those rectangular grids of colored squares. Pictures, remember, comes from the word picture elements. So I'm going to go ahead and place a graphic. Let's place this graphic. So one thing you have to remember, if I just do a single click here, I'm going to get the full size of this picture, which number one is the first indicator that says, whoa, this picture's a little bit large. I'm going to delete this and try this again. And I'm going to click and drag this time so I can get a smaller sized image. But what we've learned is that this picture probably has a high resolution. And resolution is how we term the number of pixels given in an inch. So the standard resolution for images for the web is 72 pixels per inch, or PPI. Now for print, we've got to bump that up a little bit, and the standard resolution is around 300 PPI if it's going to be professionally printed. Again, you will want to check with your printer to see what their requirements are. Now when we're in InDesign, there is no need for me to have this huge, large picture if it's going to just fit in a small window. What's happening is it will increase my InDesign file size tremendously. So we have something that's called effective resolution, and this is the resolution of the placed image based on its size in the layout. And of course, the greater the enlargement, the lower the effective resolution of the image. This would be if this image was really small in its resolution, it was tiny, and I tried to increase it. That wouldn't work either. Now, to figure out where we are as far as this graphic, if I double click it, it will open it actually in the links panel. And here it is. And it gives me my link information. And here I can see that I've got some different PPI information, but the dimensions here are very large, 5,184 by 3456. So that's huge. We don't need it to be that large. The general rule is that you typically resize before you bring your graphics into InDesign. So we don't want to, going from large to small, those reductions in InDesign are fine. This is not a problem. The problem occurs when you take something small and you want to make it large. And that's when, we have lots of issues with quality. So what happens is that your picture has a set amount of pixels. And if I were to increase this beyond what it's capable of, it's going to reduce the quality. So let's go into Photoshop now and change my dimensions here. And we can do that in a couple of ways. In my links panel, I have a go to link option, remember. I have an updated link, and that last one is edit the original. It looks like a pencil. If I click that, it's going to launch a viewer. Now my viewer has set to my Windows photo viewer. That happens to be my default for my JPEGs, which isn't what I want, obviously. So instead I'm going to go wander to Photoshop, and I'm going to open this picture in Photoshop. Here it is. So when we're in Photoshop, the way that we can resize this is by going to Image and Image Size. So Image and Image Size, I'm going to reduce this. You can see that this has a lot of quality because it's really, it is very high. Now it's 72 inches by 48 inches, which is tremendous. Here's my pixel count, although the resolution is only 72. So what's going to happen now is that when I reduce the pixel width and height, I actually in Photoshop can bump up the resolution at this time. It all think of how many counts of pixels there actually are, and I actually have quite a few pixels because the dimensions are so large. So this is actually called interpolation, and this is something that Photoshop does. Now my reduction works. Now if I were to go the opposite way and increase, Photoshop does try to increase the pixels, but all it does is it duplicates it. So if this were to start small and I wanted to make it bigger, I'm not going to gain quality. And I think that's the number one thing you have to remember, is that if there is no information there, Photoshop, InDesign, whatever program you're working in, cannot make up that information. So what we're going to do is I'm going to bump up the resolution. You can see it gets fuzzy here, but I'm going to decrease my pixels. And if I want to figure this out more time by inches, okay, and then I'm going to click OK. Actually, let's go a little bit higher than that. Let's go to 5. Okay. Now, if I resave this, and I'm going to do a save as, we're going to replace the picture so we don't ruin our original. Let's just add a 0.2 there. And we'll crank this up to leave the JPEG options at maximum. I can go ahead and close it. Back to InDesign. Now I need to replace this. So I can do one of a couple things. Let's just click this with our direct selection tool to get our picture. Delete. Our picture frame is still there, and now let's do a file and place our 0.2 picture. Okay. Now one of the things you notice here, and we'll talk about this in a few minutes, is our viewing. It doesn't look so nice anymore, but part of that is coming from our display performance because I'm using a faster display. If I choose high quality here, look at how much that tightens up. So then if I wander over here, my actual PPI actually went up to 300. Remember, I was only able to do this because my size was so big, so the pixels were actually there. So what I just chose to do was crunch them into a smaller area. So when you're in InDesign, it's okay to enlarge up about 10% or 110% if you're in your transformations. If you're going to do more for enlarging, you need to go to Photoshop and do that. Reductions, of course, you want to try to fit your picture box. So reduce the picture size before you bring it into InDesign. And that is resolution with InDesign.